When was the last time you learned something that truly changed the way you see the world? Not a random fact or a clever quote, but something that stirred your thinking, challenged your habits, and stayed with you long after the moment passed. Most of us can't remember. Not because we're lazy or uninterested, but because we're overwhelmed, surrounded by noise, scrolling through endless content. Our minds have been trained to crave stimulation, not understanding. But what if learning didn't have to be a chore? What if wisdom could feel like play, like exploration, like coming home to the part of you that still wonders? The Stoics believed that the pursuit of truth begins not with struggle, but with attention, with the quiet joy of asking better questions and discovering deeper answers. This isn't about memorizing more or working harder. It's about remembering that the most powerful mind is the one that still knows how to be curious. In this video, we'll explore how the path to self-mastery can begin with something as simple as having fun. Take a breath, set everything else aside, and let's begin a journey your future self will thank you for. 1. The information age paradox. Drowning in distraction. We are living in an age where knowledge is everywhere. It is no longer locked inside dusty libraries or limited to the privileged few. It glows from our screens, echoes in our podcasts, and floods our timelines. In theory, we are the most informed generation that has ever lived. But here lies the paradox. Despite being surrounded by unlimited knowledge, we are becoming more distracted, less focused, and increasingly detached from the pursuit of wisdom. Ask someone today to name the continents or explain a basic principle of life, and you might be surprised by the confusion. It is not because we are incapable, but because we are overwhelmed. With the world's knowledge available at the tap of a finger, we choose to scroll through endless loops of short videos, chase viral trends, and argue with strangers over things that do not truly matter. This is not laziness. This is overstimulation. Our minds have become conditioned to prefer passive entertainment over active learning. The fault is not entirely ours. Most education systems taught us that learning is a chore. That knowledge is something to be memorized for exams, then forgotten. That curiosity is a distraction from productivity. No wonder we now associate learning with boredom and mindless entertainment with joy. But what if we have been misled? What if we could outsmart everyone not by grinding harder, but by simply falling in love with learning again? This is where Stoicism offers a path. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that the obstacle is the way. Distraction, then, is not the enemy. It is the training ground. Every time you resist shallow stimulation, you are forging clarity. Every time you choose contemplation over consumption, you are strengthening your soul. Your mind, like your body, grows according to what you feed it. If you consume nothing but digital sugar, your focus, your discipline, and your depth will decay. But feed your mind substance, and it will sharpen. It will hunger for more. Imagine your brain at a buffet, surrounded by every dessert imaginable. At first, it is delightful, but over time, the taste dulls, the pleasure fades. Eventually, you are full but not fulfilled. That is what endless social media does to your mind. Constant stimulation, no nourishment. Now contrast that with a nourishing meal. Quiet, intentional, balanced. It may not trigger fireworks at first, but it leaves you grounded. This is the essence of Stoic learning. Substance over sensation, reflection over reaction. In a world of distraction, simplicity becomes power. But here is where it gets exciting. Learning does not have to be dry. It does not have to feel like sacrifice. In fact, the Stoic path to wisdom is not solemn. It is playful. It is filled with discovery. It is, at its core, deeply enjoyable. Children learn not because they are told to, but because they are fascinated. They explore without hesitation. They ask questions without shame. Stoicism asks you to return to that state, to rediscover the joy of understanding, to treat every day as a chance to train your mind the way an athlete trains their body. What if you approached knowledge like a musician practices their instrument, not to impress others, but because playing is its own reward? What if philosophy became your playground, not your prison? When you begin to treat learning as a form of fun, you tap into a new kind of power. You are no longer competing. You are creating. You are no longer comparing. You are cultivating. Most people will continue to feed their minds with what is easy, what is popular, what requires nothing of them. That is fine, but that is not the path to mastery. If you want to outsmart others, not to dominate, but to elevate, you must take a different route, the Stoic route. One that is quiet, patient, consistent. One that makes learning feel like an act of freedom, not obligation. Yes, there will be days when reading feels hard, when writing feels slow, when thinking deeply feels like lifting weights. That is natural, but remember, the mind is a muscle. Growth is uncomfortable at first, and it is in that discomfort that greatness is formed. Do not confuse stimulation for progress. Just because your screen is moving does not mean your soul is. Just because something feels exciting does not mean it is helping you grow. The Stoics were not opposed to joy, they were opposed to chaos. They did not reject pleasure, they rejected slavery to impulse. There is a difference. You do not need to become a monk. You do not need to renounce entertainment completely, but you do need to become more intentional. Ask yourself, is what I am consuming helping me become who I want to be? Is it sharpening my thoughts or scattering them? Is it helping me build a future or keeping me numb in the present? The beauty of this journey is that once you taste the power of focused thought, the joy of real learning, the clarity of disciplined curiosity, you will not want to go back. You will no longer crave empty calories for your mind. You will crave challenge, depth, meaning. Outsmarting others is not about having more degrees or knowing more facts. It is about having a mind that is your own, a mind that is trained, disciplined, curious, and alive. That kind of mind is magnetic. That kind of mind is rare. And that kind of mind is not built through scrolling. It is built through play, through reflection, through the joy of discovering what matters. So if you want to win in this noisy world, do not shout louder, think clearer. Do not chase trends, chase wisdom. Do not just consume, create. Do not wait for motivation, build momentum. This is not about being better than others. It is about becoming better than your past self. The greatest form of fun is becoming who you were meant to be. And the most underrated advantage in the modern world is a mind that enjoys learning. Choose that, and you will not just outsmart everyone, you will outgrow them. 2. Dopamine addiction, reclaiming the joy of learning. Dopamine is the feel-good chemical in your brain. It is the signal of reward, the spark of motivation, the wave of pleasure that surges through your system every time you achieve something or anticipate something rewarding. It is not the enemy. In fact, it is essential for growth and survival. It is the reason you pursue, achieve, and create. But like all powerful forces, it can become distorted. And when it does, it can quietly rob you of your ability to enjoy the things that truly matter. Every time your phone buzzes, every time you scroll to a new video, every time you win a game or see a like on your screen, your brain lights up with dopamine. These tiny jolts are not accidental. They are engineered. The modern digital world is a buffet of artificial rewards, crafted to capture and keep your attention. And the more often your brain receives these quick hits, the more it begins to expect them. It rewires itself to chase the next hit, the next spike, the next distraction, and over time, anything slower, deeper, or more meaningful begins to feel dull by comparison. This is why so many people say that learning feels like a chore. It is not because reading is inherently boring or because self-improvement lacks value. It is because the brain has been trained to prefer stimulation over substance. It is like turning the volume of music up to the maximum every single day. Eventually, regular sounds become inaudible. The silence that once felt peaceful now feels uncomfortable. The slow rhythm of contemplation begins to feel lifeless, not because it lacks power, but because your senses have been overwhelmed. The Stoics would recognize this dilemma, even in their own time. Seneca warned that indulgence in pleasure weakens the soul. Marcus Aurelius urged us to return to what is essential, to seek peace in the simplicity of discipline. They understood what we are only now confirming through neuroscience. When you overfeed the appetite for pleasure, you starve the capacity for depth. The good news is that your mind is not broken. It is simply conditioned, and what has been trained can be retrained. If your brain has adapted to crave quick rewards, then it can also adapt to appreciate the slower, more lasting satisfaction of real growth. The process is not a quick fix, but it is transformative. So how do you begin to reclaim the joy of learning? First, you must accept that your mind is currently overstimulated. That is not a flaw in your character. It is a symptom of the environment you have been immersed in: notifications, entertainment, rapid content. All of these have wired your brain to expect constant novelty. But the remedy is not to shame yourself for it. The remedy is to gently turn the volume down. You do this by being mindful of what you consume. You begin to limit the number of times you seek instant feedback. You reduce the reliance on digital sugar. And slowly, you reintroduce the nourishment of stillness. You do not need to eliminate all pleasure. The Stoics never advocated for the removal of joy. What they taught was the importance of mastery, the mastery of impulse, the mastery of attention. They believed that the highest pleasure comes not from indulgence, but from integrity, from the ability to choose what is right over what is easy, from the freedom to guide your mind instead of being ruled by it. Begin small. Choose one moment in your day to trade distraction for reflection. Pick up a book instead of a device. Sit with one idea instead of skipping to the next. Let your brain begin to recalibrate. At first, it will resist. That is natural. You have conditioned it to expect constant stimulation. But if you remain steady, something beautiful begins to unfold. Slowly, your mind quiets. Your attention deepens. You begin to feel a subtle shift. The words on the page begin to move you again. The ideas start to connect. Your thoughts become clearer. You are not just consuming information. You are engaging with it. You are not just learning. You are evolving. And this is the moment when learning no longer feels like a task. It begins to feel like a reward, not the artificial kind that fades in seconds, but the enduring kind that shapes your soul. This is when your mind starts to crave challenge. When a good book becomes as exciting as a fast-paced video. When writing, building, and reflecting become more satisfying than escaping. That is not coincidence. That is transformation. To reclaim the joy of learning is to reclaim your mind from a world that profits from your distraction. It is to say no to the easy path and yes to the path of meaning. It is to trade momentary spikes of dopamine for the long, steady burn of purpose. This is what the Stoics understood. That pleasure without control is slavery, but discipline guided by reason is freedom. You do not need to force yourself to study. You need only clear the noise long enough to hear your own curiosity again. And once you do, learning will stop being something you tolerate and become something you treasure. It will no longer be about checking boxes. It will be about becoming who you were always meant to be. And that, more than anything, is how you outsmart the world. Not by knowing more facts, not by working harder than everyone else, but by falling in love with learning again, quietly, powerfully, the Stoic way. 3. Dopamine detox, rewiring the mind for clarity. Before anything can be changed, it must first be seen, so the first step in reclaiming your mind is to observe it. Pay attention to what pulls your attention. Notice the habits that hijack your focus. These are your high dopamine activities, the ones that give you the quickest hit of pleasure but leave you emptier over time. It might be scrolling endlessly through your feed. It might be the constant clicking from video to video. It might be gaming, gossip, or even just checking your phone every 5 minutes. These activities are not evil, but they are engineered to be addictive, and if left unchecked, they become the very chains that bind you to mediocrity. Once you have identified them, the second step is simple, but not easy. You remove them completely, not forever, but for long enough to give your brain room to breathe. 1 week, 7 days. No passive stimulation, no rapid digital dopamine. At first, it feels unbearable. The silence feels loud. The boredom feels suffocating. Your mind, trained to seek constant input, begins to rebel. This is the moment when most people quit. But this is also the moment when the Stoic begins to grow. Seneca taught that the road to virtue is steep and narrow at the beginning, but smooth and satisfying the farther you go. That is the truth behind the dopamine detox. You are not punishing yourself. You are purifying your senses. When you endure those first days of restlessness, you are training your brain to stop demanding constant novelty. And as you stay the course, something almost magical begins to happen. You start to feel different. You become sharper, more awake. Things that once seemed boring now feel interesting again. That book you abandoned months ago suddenly pulls you in. That skill you tried to develop but never stuck with now starts to feel possible. Learning, which once felt heavy, now feels light. You are no longer forcing your mind to do the work. It is pulling you toward it. That is the shift. Imagine you have been eating nothing but processed sugar and salt for months. At first, real food tastes bland, but after a week of clean eating, your taste returns. You begin to notice the richness of a simple meal, the layers of flavor, the energy it brings. This is what happens to your mind during detox. You are cleansing your cognitive palate. And suddenly, things that require focus no longer feel like labor. They feel like nourishment. But we are not stopping there. We are not just making distraction less appealing. We are not just trying to tolerate discipline. We are doing something far more powerful. We are making growth addictive. We are turning learning into something you look forward to. Something that becomes as exciting as entertainment once was. That is the Stoic art of transformation. Not just to endure, but to elevate. Not just to abstain, but to awaken. To do that, you must engage a secret weapon, curiosity. The Stoics understood that a mind directed by curiosity is a mind that does not need to be forced. It moves forward on its own, driven by the thrill of understanding. Curiosity is what transforms effort into energy. It is the reason a philosopher will spend hours reflecting on a single sentence, not because they must, but because they are compelled to see what lies beneath the surface. Curiosity is not something you summon, it is something you uncover. It has been buried under layers of distraction, dulled by overstimulation. But once your brain has room to breathe, curiosity reawakens. You begin to ask questions again. You begin to wonder. You look at things not just to consume them, but to understand them. And that shift changes everything. Instead of resisting your work, you begin to enter flow. Instead of avoiding tasks, you lean into them. You begin to experience what the Stoics called tranquility, not as the absence of activity, but as the alignment of effort and intention. When your mind is no longer hijacked by impulse, you become powerful. You do not just get more done, you live with clarity, with depth, with peace. A dopamine detox is not about running from the world. It is about returning to it with renewed strength. It is about stepping away so that you can come back wiser. And the longer you stay in this state, the more natural it becomes. You no longer crave the noise, you crave the silence. You no longer seek escape, you seek mastery. This is not theoretical, this is observable. Day by day, your energy increases. Your thoughts deepen. You no longer chase stimulation, you choose engagement. And you begin to realize that fun was never the problem. The problem was confusion. We confused novelty with joy. But true joy is not found in the constant new. It is found in the consistent meaningful. The Stoics would say that the mind is like a garden. If left untended, weeds of distraction grow wild. But if cultivated with intention, it becomes a place of beauty, of order, of power. A dopamine detox is how you begin that cultivation. It is how you reclaim control, not just over your schedule, but over your attention, your emotions, your inner world. So if you want to outsmart everyone, start with yourself. Remove what numbs you. Embrace what sharpens you. Replace fleeting pleasure with lasting curiosity. And watch how quickly you begin to change. Let others chase their distractions. Let them scroll. Let them sink into endless noise. You have chosen something different. You have chosen to build a mind that is not just disciplined, but alive. A mind that finds fun in learning, that finds joy in stillness, that finds power in the simplest of things. And once you experience that kind of clarity, you will never trade it for chaos again. That is how you reset your brain. That is how you begin to win, quietly, powerfully, the Stoic way. 4. Harnessing curiosity, turning wonder into wisdom. You know that feeling when you're watching a game and the score is tied with just seconds left on the clock. Your heart beats faster, your eyes refuse to blink. You lean in, desperate to see how it ends. That intensity, that pull, that silent tension in the chest, that is curiosity. It is not just a fleeting emotion. It is a powerful force, a spark, a guide. And if you learn how to use it, it can transform how you think, how you grow, and how you live. Most people think learning is supposed to be hard. They believe it is something you force yourself to do, something that takes willpower and grit. But the truth is, learning is most powerful when it becomes a game, when it stops feeling like an obligation and starts to feel like play. The secret is not to push yourself harder. The secret is to awaken your curiosity. Let's say you know nothing about the stock market. You could approach it like a student forced to memorize facts. Or you could approach it like a detective chasing clues. Start with a question, not an answer. What is a stock? Why do prices rise and fall? Who decides value? Why do people risk their savings for a line on a chart? These questions do not need immediate answers. In fact, it is better if you let them simmer. Let them marinate in your mind. Let them grow roots. The longer you sit with a question, the more powerful your desire to understand becomes. This is how the Stoics approached knowledge. They did not chase conclusions. They chased better questions. Epictetus said we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so that we may listen more than we speak. Listening, in this case, means being open, to wonder, to not know, to be willing to explore a mystery without needing to control it. The key is not to consume everything at once. It is to go step by step, piece by piece. Follow the trail. Let one idea lead you to another. Let your questions evolve. Curiosity is not about speed. It is about depth. And when you allow yourself to be pulled by what fascinates you, you find yourself learning without effort. You lose track of time. You get lost in the process. And suddenly, the knowledge that once felt unreachable becomes yours, not through force, but through flow. The power of curiosity is that it creates momentum. It turns information into insight. It transforms learning from a chore into a chase. The Stoics knew this. They did not try to memorize truths. They questioned the world until truth revealed itself. They were not passive students. They were active seekers. And so should you be. So the next time you are tempted to say you are not interested in a topic, ask yourself if you have really questioned it. Have you truly sat with it, looked beneath the surface, and allowed yourself to wonder? Or have you simply decided too early that it is not worth your time? Curiosity is not childish. It is courageous. It is what separates the stagnant from the growing, the mediocre from the extraordinary. You do not need to be an expert to begin. You simply need to care. And once you care, everything changes. Harness your curiosity. Let it lead you. Let it make learning addictive. Because in the end, the mind that is driven by curiosity is the mind that never stops expanding. And that, more than anything, is how you outsmart the world, not with arrogance, but with genuine wonder. Let the world chase noise. You chase understanding. Let others memorize. You explore. Let others pass time. You seek truth. Because once curiosity becomes your compass, learning will never feel like work again. It will feel like freedom. Learning is not just the act of collecting information. It is the quiet unfolding of clarity, the deepening of perspective, the simple yet profound joy of seeing the world with new eyes. And once you step onto that path, once you allow your mind to wander with purpose, to chase curiosity instead of distraction, you will find that your hunger for understanding only grows stronger. What once felt boring begins to feel beautiful. What once felt like effort becomes energy. This journey doesn't require perfection. It only asks for presence. Whether you're walking, resting, or sitting quietly in your car, let your questions guide you. Let learning become a companion, not a task. If this video sparked something in you, consider subscribing so you can continue building a mind that thinks deeply, calmly, and freely. And tell me in the comments, what are you most curious about right now? Just 2 or 3 words will do. The next step in your journey might be simpler than you think. Sometimes, all it takes to outsmart the noise around you is to rediscover the joy of thought itself. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.